right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, the 17th, correct?
Yep.
This is the meeting of the General Government Committee. I'm convening this meeting. The time is now 1:05. And today, we're gonna be discussing unpaid ordinance tickets. Before we get started, why don't we introduce ourselves, starting with the councilors first, joined by Councilor.
Hi, I'm Tim Allen,
Okay.
Counselor from Ward 7, and I'm a member of the General Government Committee.
Ryan Santinello, City Councilor at Large, City of Springfield.
Catering Walsh, City Council at Large, member of the committee.
Thank you. And then we are joined today by the clerk. Introduce yourself. Madam
Gladys
Clerk.
Viola Lopez, City Clerk.
You got this one.
Andy Doty, Chief Information Officer.
Steve Bonacani Law.
Ryan Fair, reporter for Reminder.
Welcome.
Steve Logan, Acting Controller.
Kathy Bono Capo.
Jerry Martin, resident of East Forest Park.
James Regolo, IT.
Thomas Moore, Law.
Very well, thank you. And we're being joined remotely by Lacey Hackett, Deputy California Deputy Lacey Hackett, Police Liaison Suhaili Arce. Thank you for joining us. And the President of the East Springfield Civic Association, Kathy Brown. Thank you for joining us. Can you guys hear me okay remotely? All right, just to put things into context, it was brought to my attention that apparently, this is actually that we started talking last year. There is approximately $1 million in unpaid ordinance tickets. I do believe some work was being done in the past. I know I had a conversation with Kathy before, Kathy Brown, and there was an effort into getting some sort of the programs, the software to talk to each other. I do believe part of the problem, and we will talk about this today, is that when you give an ordinance ticket, it doesn't get input into the Muni system, all of them. Some of it goes into something called Code B. Goes into Code B, and apparently they don't talk to each other. So it was Councilor Santinello brought to my attention that he has some concerns from constituents that had been complaining about this. And the way I'm looking at this is not only a quality of life issue, but also if we're going to give tickets, at least I have an expectation they're going to be followed through. Otherwise, where are we giving tickets, right? And so my other concern is what does that do to the books? So let me start with some basic questions. I feel like this is a big cobweb we're about to untangle here. All right, so Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you first, if I could. When an ordinance ticket is given, okay, if it's aside from code, for example, somebody doesn't mow the lawn, I think that's a $50 ticket. If that doesn't get paid, it gets attached or liened to the house, correct?
So that would be a question for.
I think
Steve, okay.
The ticket's issued, if it's not paid, each year before we do the third quarter tax bill, we get a list of all the unpaid for code enforcement as well as housing. And we send it to the respective departments who review it and say some, for example, bankruptcy, you can't collect bills on. So they say you can't include this one, but you can these. We come with a clean list. At that point, we go over to the registry of deed and file what's called a municipal lien, which is not the same as a municipal lien certificate. It's a different deal.
Right.
But you do that. We have to do that before we can include it on the tax bill. Once we do that, as part of our third quarter tax bill run, we attach that to the tax bill. Then it becomes part of the tax bill.
But that's only for code enforcement and housing issues.
That's what we do it for now, yes.
Okay,
Any general bill that's in munis can be attached to the.
so specifically the code enforcement and the housing ordinance
Yeah.
tickets go into.
Those are the largest ones, yeah.
Okay, and would you happen to know how much money we have outstanding in those?
I do not off the top of my head. We do it every year. I think Michael and I always said it averaged, we average about 200,000 a year onto it.
We spend about $50,000 in cost to put the liens on
Yes.
to the registry.
That's a lot of money. Okay.
It's in the general fund, we budget it every year.
And you said that 250,000, it's added every year or?
The 200, the average, and it's an average, and it's a gross
Mhm.
estimate, so you're holding me to it, no. But the average of 200,000 is put on each year. It's a 2-year lag because we go back 2 years. So in 25, we're putting on 23, and we catch up. And at that point, it's on the tax bill. To put it on the tax bill is the 50,000 that Kathy's talking about.
The registry.
So we
fees.
budget 50,000 to put a lien, to file the liens.
Right, so how much do we have outstanding?
Outstanding right now on the tax bill, I couldn't tell you. 'Cause
You-
Once
you
it's on
can
the tax
definitely-
bills,
Could you find that for me, Steve?
I will look it up for you, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just I'm personally curious myself. Okay, now, Madam Clerk. The ones that are not code related or housing related,
Would be through the police department, you mean?
is that
Which
because,
specific ones are you referring to?
well, tell me the difference, I guess, because if I have questions, I guess if people at home will have questions. So if somebody's walking down the street with an open can of alcohol, that person could technically get arrested. If they get a ticket, Suhaili, where does that ticket go if they get a ticket?
So those tickets come to me. I put them into the system and they go to a seller. But those tickets are coming in through different avenues. So those particular tickets that you speak of right now, those are tickets that would be issued through our squad 911 officers. They wouldn't generally be an ordinance violation. That would be an arrestable offense. That is a ticket that's assigned specifically to that person. They come to my desk and then I put them into the system,
Okay, into a seller.
into a seller, correct?
Does that? Do you have background, Suhaili?
Do I have what?
I hear background noise from you.
Yes, that's why I keep on muting it because we got the officers are coming in and out. I apologize.
That's okay. So once you put into a seller, what happens? Do they talk to Munis? What, does it sit there? What happens?
So it is my understanding that nothing happens with it. It is my understanding that it does not talk to any other departments. And it just stays there.
So that we are in the process of putting all the, those violations into OpenGov, which talks to Munis. We're doing OpenGov
Which
with
violations, Kathy?
the police ordinance violations. The problem with the example she gave you, open container, we can't lien a property for someone who's
No, I
walking out the street
understand
with
that.
an
I
open.
understand.
So there, it can't be all of them because there's no property, but we're in the process of putting all of those into OpenGov that's gonna talk right to Munis, the same way the code enforcement is going there too. So we anticipate that to be done by the end of June. We've been already in the process. It's a complicated, because they're not all cut and dry.
Mhm.
As she said, not all of them can be associated with a property, with an address.
Mhm.
So we're in the process of doing that. They will be in there and they can be, if they can be attached to a property, they will be.
Got you.
But we don't ignore them. If somebody comes to sell a property, the MLC will give them a list of all the other violations also.
MLCB.
Municipal lien certificate, and that's what everything that's been liened, municipal liens have been on the property.
Mhm.
Now, some of these aren't tied to the property, so what we've done, working with the law department, was we give a package that says, a summary sheet which says municipal lien charges, and that's your municipal lien certificate. And then non-municipal lien charges, which is your open container, for example.
Mhm.
And the bills are attached behind it along with the certificate, and the top is a summary of how much is total due.
Yeah.
At that point, if the open container one wasn't mine, for example,
Got you.
I would go and say, this isn't mine, then you go through an appeal and try to get it removed at that point.
Okay.
I mean, if there are any contracts we enter, for example, in community development where I came from before, we entered into contracts with individuals, businesses. We actually send over a slip to the treasurer collector and they give us all, not only taxes, but fees and fines, including these, and these all have to be paid before we'll enter into a contract. So they're not just sitting there, we are addressing them, but the next step we're taking is to add them to, they're gonna be in OpenGov to Munis and they will be added to the tax bills. So we are in the process of doing it. It should be up and running, OpenGov by the end of June.
So you're talking about even the SPD tickets?
There will be, yes.
Okay,
And just for clarification, we also, to Kathy's point, for refunds, for tax certifications, for anything that collectors, treasurers are asked to review, we include the stuff from Code V as this is outstanding. That's all, part of the process. Here's everything outstanding for this person, business, parcel. And then we send it to the requesting department.
thank you. So Haley, do you know roughly, if you have any idea how much outstanding tickets we have with SPD?
If you would provide me an opportunity for some time, I can get that to you. I do believe the sergeant has, he might have an estimate. I can get that to you momentarily if he didn't have it.
Yeah, please, that would be fantastic. I just want to get a feel as to how much money is out there rolling around. And I realize that we are not going to recoup everything, but I just want to have, and I think our colleagues as well as I'm sure you guys will want to know how much might be out there. If you guys know, I would appreciate you guys telling me. Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
Oh, what's outstanding? No, we don't.
Okay, very well.
And it's not all collectible. It's not.
No, I
all,
just say
you
that,
know,
yeah, I
The
realize. that.
information, sometimes there's not enough information
Yeah.
put on the ticket to tie it to
No,
anyone.
that's
So,
clear, Kathy, but I know that this has been going for a while, and so it was brought up to our attention, and so we have a
Understand.
duty to talk about it.
Absolutely.
So I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So what happens when somebody dies to these tickets and fines?
Well, they'll be attached to the property, but if an individual if you have an open container and you die, there's nothing.
It's similar to an
I mean, that's a
uncollectible
legal
taxes.
question, yes.
Right.
No, we look for those triggering events, Counselor, that lead to a sale of the property. And that's the best time for us to be able to recoup all of it, because we can put it on the municipal lien certificate. So they won't get title free and clear
Okay.
unless they pay all the municipal lien certificates. But for those who don't sell and want to let it accumulate, that's our challenge, is a timeliness of collection.
But that will apply for the business as well, for whatever reason they get a ticket. They will have to pay it before they get anything.
A business?
Yeah,
We have even greater authority on a business, so we're trying to get all of these, I'm talking a little bit out past my skill set, but
understood.
the goal really is what everything that Kathy and Steve were just mentioning. But in addition, from the business side, that we make sure that when there are permits or any fees that are, any permits that are applied for with the city, that being a homeowner or a business, or if a new license needs to be granted on an annual basis through my department, we're trying to catch all of that and make sure that they're complying and they're paying up to date before we issue anything in their favor.
Good, okay. All right, so I just got two last questions, then I'm gonna turn it over to my colleagues. So Madam Clerk, nothing comes through you?
We receive it. So that's the role of the clerk's office, solely to receive the payment and also to waive payments on request of the deputy collector. So we get emails from the deputy collector if things are not, they can't be collected, and then I waive them.
Gotcha.
And I work with James Regolo with that Code V system as well.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And my final question, and this is more of an accounting question. I'm not an accountant, so I'm gonna try to formulate my question the best I can. So if whatever amount we have outstanding out there, which Suhail is gonna tell us, Steve's gonna tell us, what does that do, if anything, to the books? Because for example, just to throw a number out there, say that we have $1 million outstanding, is that considered revenue? Or how does that do to the financial standing? Is that debt or how?
Only acting as an accountant. But no, the way we set it up, it's set up as a receivable with deferred revenue. So when we collect it, you reverse that and they enter cash and credit revenue. So when we collect it, we recognize it as revenue in that year. But
When you
until then,
collect-
we don't use
Right.
that as revenue
You
until
can't
we
use it
actually
until
collect
you
it.
actually collect it.
So where did you put that in the books?
Deferred revenue.
defer revenue.
Meaning we hope to see it down the road.
And so what happens, like, for the fiscal year, when you guys do the budget, how does that?
It does affect free cash receivables and deferred revenue affects free cash, the
But it
calculation of free
doesn't, we
cash.
don't use that in
Oh,
the
wait.
budget.
But we can't use in the budget as
But
revenue.
it does affect free cash,
It could, yes.
in which way?
Both ways, actually. The receivables, I believe, are subtracted off it. And then the revenue is added in, or vice versa. I'm not, right now. I'd have to look at my calculations.
Could that be impediment for the free cash to be certified?
No. What it is what it will do is net each other out.
Gotcha.
And
My
the,
apologies. I got you. My apologies. Okay. All right, so questions, Councilor Allen?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I remember when Acela went in 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, somewhere in there. It was gonna improve a lot of stuff going every which way, and Acela was the new system that was gonna unify a lot of things. But then Acela didn't meet up to its hoped for success. And there's a new system, right? There's a brand new one.
OpenGov, that's what I've,
That's OpenGov.
this is OpenGov, which we're putting them all into OpenGov.
Okay. I hadn't heard that name.
And we're
before.
actually, there's other departments that are following it. We're doing code, police. They're also working with health department to get all that into OpenGov, and then we're gonna go on to the park department so that everything goes through and flows into Munis. We're little by little getting all the departments in there, but you have to start one at a time.
And that was one of the problems with Acela, that it didn't.
It didn't talk to Munis.
Munis. Thank you.
Councilor Patel?
One of the reasons why we're here is we have a repeat violator. The Dollar Tree in Ward 7. In Ward 7. And they have accrued up to $1,000 in penalties that they haven't paid. And to be quite frankly, I drive by there every day. And almost every day it looks, I don't want to use the term, I don't want to swear, but that's what it looks like. Okay, and it repeats and it repeats and it repeats. How do we stop this? How do we stop it from happening? Is there a way to stop this? Because they're just saying, we're not paying it, and we're gonna just keep throwing trash out there and throw me another ticket.
Oh, and those are the tickets that are gonna be added to their tax bill.
It will be added to the owner, as we get this up and running, it will be added to the owner of that lot, the parcel, tax bill. You get enough of those, he'll call them and say.
Well, why hasn't that happened up to now? Is this something new that they're adding into the tax bill? Didn't you say
No,
that?
we've been doing it.
You've been
all along.
doing
They have made payments in it recently and.
The code enforcement have written tickets. The
Okay.
code enforcement tickets they've paid and they're added. It's the police ordinance ones that we're getting added now. So they have tickets from both sides. They've been cited by both code and by the police ordinance squad.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Counselor Sandell. It's a mess. It's a mess when it opened. We picketed against it. Frank, Ryan and I, we didn't want it there. It was a horrible spot. We didn't know it was gonna be what it turned out to be. I, like Brian, see it every day. I usually drive through the lot a couple times a week. It's gotta be 150 pieces of trash. So I am working. I met with Keith O'Connor, Steve Desolate, Mike Jacob about it last week. Working with it, I told them to not ever close their tickets. Like that theoretically, when a problem is identified, when it gets fixed, the ticket gets closed. I asked them, Keith last week, please don't close their tickets. Keep it open, because there's no reason for them to continue to keep it clean. Now, it's not clean the last time I went through. So I'm meeting with them today on it.
So at that point, just for my own clarification, Counselor, if they pay the ticket, they have to close it because it's been paid. They can then issue another ticket and keep it going that way. But they have to, if you have $100 fine and you pay it, the ticket will be closed. I'm not sure if that's what you meant.
I'm not sure how that's worked. I'm not sure if they've paid them. Can you tell?
They pay most. I know there's a couple that have not been paid now, recently. I haven't actually an email upstairs. I have to bring it. Sorry.
Well, Keith will have to figure that out because it's in his bailiwick. That's his job. But my request was, how long are we the fools? We've been doing this for 10 years. At what point do we just keep it open? And I don't know the legality of that. I don't know. That's what I asked Keith. I don't know what his decision.
Legality, I'll leave to Councilor Bonacati, Solicitor Bonacati, but,
Tom, you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think what Mr. Lonergan said is gonna be correct. You know, every incident of a violation is an independent incident. So once the debt to society is paid through the fine, unless the statute allows you to do something, we can't create our own method of enforcement beyond that. So we are limited to what the state allows us, which is it's a good point, Counselor. One of the problems with the issuing of citations is that the fees are not very high. They don't get adjusted very often. So we're capped with a certain level that we can set them at by statute.
What are the current fees?
Well, it depends on what type of violation you're gonna have, but if it's something that's a non-criminal disposition, which is a lot of what the general tickets are, it's capped at 300. So unless the statute allows you to go, $300 is the maximum fine that the state allows for most of the violations we're talking about. There's a lot of different ones, but most of them are
Are
that.
they stacked or are they?
It's $300 per incident.
They're
So
usually about $100 for the
it-
litters.
on the average, about 100 or to $50 for general ordinance fines, or a lot of times $50. But
Okay.
yeah, it's capped, and that it takes the teeth, the amount of teeth you can put into the citations limited. And that like you're saying, sometimes they look at it, the business as the cost of business. And I'm gonna accumulate, $1,200 in fines a month, but to pay a property management company is $5,000 a month. So guess what? I'm gonna take the fines. That's something we all know is probably happening.
That makes for very crappy neighbors. But before I get to you, Councilor Allen, do you have any follow-up?
Well, just with Tom's response, I get it, and that, that was a request I made of Keith, because it's been particularly bad the last couple of weeks. And I had them, they were out there June 16th. Their follow-up date was, May 16th. Their follow-up date was May 30th. They were going again. They issued a report, etc. I'm just trying to get it to be a little more final and like not final like you can't open again, but I mean just like issue the report, make sure it's real, make sure they pay their thing, and I said keep it open. I don't know.
One thing, Counselor, when you say keep it open, in my former life as a code enforcement attorney, many years ago, there's two avenues to doing the enforcement. You have the case that's the violation of the ordinance, and then you have the fee that's attached to it as a ticket. So when they issue an order to correct something, say it's a violation for litter on the property, they're issuing an order and saying you have X amount of time to complete the process to clean it up. And if you don't, we're going to come back and do a second inspection. You'll be subject to a fine, but you're also subject to cleaning it up if we bring you to court to enforce that. So, and a thing like the dollar store you're talking about, that particular property, I'm not familiar with the property, but if there's a chronic issue with them never cleaning up what was cited to be cleaned up, it might make sense for code to look at it from that perspective and say, we don't really want to issue the ticket. We want to go forward with the order to get the cleanup. And back in the day, I say that loosely because it wasn't that long ago, we had a program. It was called Operation Clean Sweep. And you would do that through the housing court, and you'd have a number of properties go in and have orders issued for the property saying you must make the correction by a certain time. If you fail to make the correction, the correction will be made essentially and the property be lien for the value of what was done, something to that effect. And it's court order, and you'd have to go in front of the judge to get it. But that was an avenue that was pursued for, we do it maybe once or twice a year, and you'd have these long, lists of all these properties that we had that were essentially not fixing small things like litter violations over and over again. And that was mostly for residential property. I don't know that we did it for any commercial property. Again, this is a while ago, so my memory of that is a little vague. Too many kids and years in between those times. So to really remember it, but I know we did that, and it was for a lot of quality of life neighborhood issues, and it was almost all of it was residential now that I think about it. And it was really with neighbors to neighbors having over and over chronic issues, and the fee gets paid, but the trash is still there, sort of issue. And I think that's kind of what you guys are describing.
Thank you, Tom. Before I turn it over, just before I lose my train of thought, following up with Councilor Allen, I think it was kind of like piggybacking off him, actually. Solicitor, do you see a world out there in which, particularly a business, in which they get ticketed and they don't pay the ticket, and they just keep getting ticketed and ticketed and ticketed. At which point do we say enough is enough? And what can we do to, I'm not saying shut them down because we want the business. But at some point, we gotta put a foot down, you know, we can't let 5, 10 years go by, particularly if they're being crappy neighbors. Do you see a world there in which we can, into the legalese in which the city can have some teeth and sting them, for lack of better words, either suspend them for one day? Because I've been thinking about this, even with Garcia Market yesterday, the meeting that we had. At some point, we have to put a foot down with these bad actors. And, you know.
We have a plan for Garcia.
Yes, that's what I heard. I can't wait to hear it, but it was.
Close that to you.
Yes, I look forward to hearing. But at some point, we gotta put a foot down and say enough is enough. And, you know, we suspend the license, the bars for one day. Is there anything that we can do, that we can have a real impact with some of these businesses that, don't pay the ordinance tickets?
I hear you. So what I want to explore, I have not opened this door yet on our code team. But they are under the law department, they're under my jurisdiction, so I will start to today ask them whether or not we can expand the matters into for a business entity. And I think we have full latitude to be able to do that over in housing court. But we already have the construct. We have the attorneys over there. We're over there, you know, multiple days every single week. So for us to file a complaint, it's not a big deal. It's a lot more expensive for the Dollar Tree to answer that complaint, because then now we get a court order compelling them to clean up the property. So they have to usually retain an attorney, come into court for the hearing. That's more expensive for them before they even get to the cleanup, but we can threaten that. And if we have those violators, those repeat violators that are causing a real impact to a neighborhood, we should go after them. So I'm all for that, and I'm willing to exert the resources to do that, so.
That's great. Thank you. I look forward to hearing your master plan, Solicitor, as we move forward this. Thank you, Solicitor. I'm gonna go, if I may, Jerry, you
Okay.
waited. Jerry, followed by, if you allow me, Jerry, Suhaili, and then Council Walsh.
Yeah, so I was looking into the Dollar Tree issue over the past few weeks. And when I discovered, this kind of communication that needs to go on with this municipal ticketing, just to be a little bit more pinpoint, a lot of the tickets now, so they've been spanning over 2 years. There's 5 unpaid from the Dollar Tree, and 3 of them are about 300 at this point already. So they're at nearly $1,000 with 2 other outstanding tickets as well. So it's been a lot, and I also have printed out a few of those violations. And it says that it could issue a criminal complaint. Is that essentially what bringing them to court is? Is that what that criminal complaint is? Solicitor?
No, a criminal complaint is different. When we're in housing court, that primarily is a civil.
Right.
Civil court, so it's civil actions that we're taking on, or that are compelling them to do something, really to bring a property up to code. I'm not familiar with it being passed, but about the authority to convert that from a civil to a criminal action. Tom, are you familiar with that?
The city has not done it in a criminal posture, it's to my memory, since I've been part of the department. I know that in the past, for certain things, there were criminal violations issued, but solicitor, I'd have to look into how, it was so long ago. I honestly was never part of those cases. I think the gentleman's right that there is an avenue for criminal enforcement, but there's probably some prerequisites to get to that, to make a criminal case out of somebody with an overgrown lawn. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be, there's probably conditions that they have to fail before you can get to that. But I do believe that's right, that it is an avenue that's possible.
Because it says a criminal complaint, not an indictment. So obviously, I think would that be a differing degree of what that would look like, I guess, but
Yeah, well, you bet. I mean, so you gotta remember, civil is really to either pay a fine or correct an action. Criminal is punishment.
correct.
So it's usually, and you can't criminally charge a business entity.
Right.
You have to delve down into an individual. So you'd almost have to bring in this kind of case, which becomes impossible to prove. How do you bring in like a manager on a criminal charge who's running the Dollar Tree when they might have multiple managers? And now you need to show that they had a consciousness of mind to allow and perpetuate the litter that's out in front of the building, that they have actually contributed to that. And so I can guarantee you that if you tried to put that to our PD, they say no over my
No.
dead body. And if you tried to get the DA's office to prosecute something like that, they'd say over my dead body, because that's not the way the criminal system is built. You have to have an individual at risk because you're gonna punish them and deprive them of liberty.
Yes, because I'm looking at the violations. I believe they were issued from the police department, and they said after so many days, there could be a criminal complaint issued. So I was just curious what that process looked like, if it was any differently, because obviously, we don't want prosecutors and all that.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
I just didn't know if there was any
I think
difference.
one of the reasons they did it in a civil posture was that the standards are lower.
Right.
So the standard of proofs are lower, as we all know, than it would be in a criminal case. The punch of like the enforcement in the civil case comes in the form of contempt. So you have a court order that goes out. They say flaunting the court order, we're not going to do what you want. Now you have to go in and seek contempt from the court. And, I've been a part of civil cases in housing court for the city where we locked up landlords, and put them in jail, because they didn't pay a fine or they didn't make a correction to a building. It is possible to do that. If you're talking about a business failing to do a certain thing, you could theoretically go before a judge and say, we're looking for an order of contempt to hold individuals in the business responsible. But I think to the solicitor's point, then you start to get into the judge wanting to say, well, how am I locking up this manager, and show me the proof for why we do that. So it becomes like a little bit more complicated when we pursue something like jail and physical restraint of a person's freedom in the criminal sense. It becomes more complicated evidentiary wise, for sure. But it's not impossible. The statute, I think, allows you to try to do that. And it's probably for an extreme case, you could think of something where it's really, a hugely dangerous situation and you're only able to issue civil fines and you choose to convert that to something criminal. You could see something like that.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm not trying to insinuate that people go to jail. I was just curious because I saw that it said criminal complaint, so I didn't know what that enforcement or if that was any different kind of,
Let's move on to Sue Haley, followed by Councilor Walsh.
All right, I just wanted to piggyback off of whoever was speaking before me to share a little bit of information in regards to the violations at that particular location. And I know you had inquired about the number on how much is currently owed, but it's important that that I bring forth is that this is why OpenGov is really important, because they need to share information. Here, we do not have access to be able to see how much is owed to the city through any of our databases, specifically myself or any of our law enforcement. We would have to look to IT in Acela to be able to figure that out, how much is actually owed. I would be able to see unpaid violations or things of that nature through Code V, but that is specifically address only. So encompassing all of the ordinances, right now that is not possible to provide that information on my end. But in regard to the Dollar Tree specifically, there's still $1,450 that are currently owed. These violations are between 2023, 24, and 25. Currently through Code V, I was able to see that there are 7 currently unpaid violations and 6 violations that have been paid. And I'm also noticing that since 2024, the officer that goes there to issue those violations has issued a $300 violation after the third one. So since then, they are being issued $300 instead of the $100 fine that is normally allocated to these particular situations. But just to let you know, they've already raised the bar at that particular location. And there's still several unpaid violations that are still owed.
Thank you, Sue Haley. Andy, can you help us with that, getting that information?
Specific information. you want for?
what she was talking, what Suhaili was talking about with Acela, how much is outstanding in SPD in ordinance tickets.
Well, I think, certainly we can look at it, but understand also that we're on a deadline to get this converted over to OpenGov. So, at some point, we're gonna sunset, and we have very little time because we'll be out of compliance license-wise. So we're allocating our resources to get the conversion done as rapidly as
When is the
possible.
target for the conversion?
June.
Okay, I'm sure we can.
So what we want to do is remember that if we can't use the software after the license expires. So we're up against the deadline to get this done before that expiration occurs.
Andy,
So-
I understand you, but I have the utmost confidence in you that we can do both at the same time.
I think what she was saying is that once that everyone goes to OpenGov, they'll be able to see not only what the police have outstanding, if code enforcement has anything outstanding, if all of
Yes.
them together, it's not just theirs, because they can see theirs, but if there's any property, which is what collectors treasurers does for us now, they look in all different systems. If you go to a contract with the city or get some from the city or an MLC from the city, they do it all. That's why we're trying to get it everything in OpenGov so everybody can see it.
And Kathy, that information on OpenGov is open to the public too. They can go in there and look at that, can't they? No?
No,
Oh, they can't?
no,
It's a software. So-
no, this is just for the city.
Okay.
This is just for the
All
city.
right, so Councilor Walsh, we waited patiently waiting.
Oh, yeah, I'm just wondering, is litter, is that a violation of any of the conditions of the special permit?
Good question.
Because you can revoke a permit.
Well, council, I think if it was a part of their special permit, council absolutely has the right to call the permit holder in to discuss whether that permit should be suspended or other action should be taken. If it's a condition of the special permit, the council has the right to go.
Was it, I don't remember, it was a special permit or zone change, so maybe that's,
I
yeah,
don't know if it applies to the business you're talking.
because there's teeth
Yes.
in violating special permits.
Right,
I'm not sure
Councilor
what-
Allen, follow Councilor Sanfilippo.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're not
I
done?
was- I
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
finished. But this whole process, I had no idea how complicated it all is. All the different pieces that have to come together, and how many people actually work on this? Is it people from different departments, or is there, do we need to create a whole new
For the
department for-
OpenGov?
Yeah,
It's the IT, right now they're working with code enforcement, they're working with the police department, they've been working with the health department, so every department has one or two people that are a part of the team that's working on going forward, and then we've already talked to other departments, so, I mean, it's being led by James and Andy from IT, and then Steve Desolate and his team are working closely with it and the police, so, there is a team moving it forward.
and James, how's it going?
We're going live by the 30th. That's it.
Stay tuned. Also, Councilor? Also, Councilor?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilor
Counselor.
Allen, followed by Councilor Sanfilippo.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure we had a special permit here. It was
It couldn't have been.
by right,
yeah.
there's no drive-through,
It was a residence though, formerly, wasn't it?
That's correct.
well, there's one little house that was there. It might have been, they had a business there, catering, that,
Remember. it
those
was
two
really-
little
it was a
white
big
and green
controversial
houses.
vote.
They had a business, one of the houses is still there. I don't recall, but I don't think there's a special permit. I don't think there were conditions. And
Residents couldn't have been zone business.
yeah, they ran a construction company there. Those, you remember?
Yes.
There was and there were heavy equipment in the back, so they might have been just by rights kind of thing. That's
You
what
can just look and see.
I recall. Could I just ask though, so what are the categories? There's the police violations, there's the code enforcement violation. Are there other categories?
It's a quality of life for the open health department.
Health department has, the health department, the health department is working with them too, and they're going into this also. And then after health, we're gonna try to work with park department, but right now it's code enforcement, police are together, and then health department has done half. So they are not gonna be fully live at the end of,
Counselor, if you look to, I'm sorry, Counselor. If you look to, I think it's ordinance, chapter 1, section 1-25 has the full list of every one of the ordinance violations and how much money and who enforces. So if you want to know how many different types of tickets, that's exactly where you can see it. That means a lot of them, so it's not, I
Oh,
can
it's
list them off the top of my head, but there's a number of them, and it tells you who the enforcing agency in the city is. All of them are from the police department. They'll say that in the beginning of that section. There's a whole paragraph that discusses the following departments plus the police department. So the police department can do all of them. And then it'll say code enforcement or whatever for the state sanitary code or whatever it says. And so you can see how many different types of tickets.
Councilor Santana?
Yeah, years ago, I don't know if we still do it, I don't think we do, but we used to have tax scofflaws and they used to put their names in the paper. And they couldn't wait to get to City Hall to pay their tax bills once they saw it in public. Is there any way that we could put these major violators up on our website, which is a public website, so that people can see these violations and maybe the pictures of the disgusting garbage on the property and stuff? So maybe they'll come in and say, you know, I don't want to lose my business here, and people are looking at that, I'm gonna go pay that fine.
I know some other communities still do it. When I previously represented, we used to do exactly what you described, but
I would say with the taxes counselor, that was more the advertising for when we're about to put a lien on their property.
Yeah.
You're right, they came running in and, you know, you have a font about that big and everybody could read it. They came in and we got good collection.
So I think we can do the same thing with
I don't
our
know if we
city
do it.
website.
I'll really leave that up to,
we can,
We can do that, can't we?
we can.
Let's try, it. Let's do it.
What do we need to make that happen? What do we need to do to make that happen?
Well, you're gonna need to give us some time because was as much as I say we can, I need to make sure we can. And two.
appreciate that.
A lot of kids getting nervous over there.
I was hoping to take a
But then
day
we
off.
also, we want to, I also want to give some guidance about how to publish, and where we can publish, because there are rules about publishing. And I want to make sure I give those out to you, so you know what your options are.
And just to be clear, we're talking about publishing on the city website, the people that don't pay. Or we're not talking about print pay.
Well, so what other communities have done, they used to always put it in the Republican. And then the Republican, it got so expensive that a lot of
expensive.
communities stopped doing that. And so if they have more of a local newspaper or one that just covers their community, they've moved to that, and they would publish the names of those who are in arrears and the exact amount that they are in arrears. And so you usually send out this letter, this menacing letter saying, if you do not pay your bill by this date, you're going to get published. And then you publish, and then people
Right.
either waves come down and want to pay their bills out of embarrassment. But I need to figure out where you can publish that.
Not to get too much into it,
With
but if we did that,
taxes,
Well,
by law.
and the issue I think here in the city is, 15 years ago, that was a huge problem during the control board era. Our
Yes.
collection rate was somewhere like in the 80s, low 80s, and you want to be in your mid 90s for health purposes, and we're there now.
We're there now. And the other with the advertisements, that's specified by law. You have to include owner of record, even if I'm the owner of record and I sell it to the solicitor. His property will be up as non-payment of taxes, but it'll be under my name. And then I'll be going, if he didn't pay his taxes, I'll be like, wait a minute, I don't own it anymore. But that's required by law, the size and all the other stuff. That's not necessary, but anything we put out there is specified by the law.
Excellent. And not to get too much into the weeds of things, but in this scenario, if we publish something in the local paper, can we collect the fine plus the cost, or should?
No, so you cannot collect the publishing costs.
Well, we might be able to put it on our website. That's a public
Yeah.
website. We might be able
That's
to do that.
free.
You're gonna look into that.
I am.
Okay. Very well.
I mean, we spend right now, and we're gonna be adding these more, so last year we spent over $50,000 on to put the liens on, so we're gonna be adding more, so that's just gonna keep going up. And we're gonna continue to do it, but we have to be conscientious of, I mean, advertising the Republican is extremely expensive.
What are the rates in the reminder?
How expensive,
Good
how
question, good
expensive.
question.
And the department is.
I'll get back to you.
So, I just want to do a quick time check. That was now 1:48. I want to go over remotely. Does Kathy or Lindsay, you have anything you want to add, or Suhaili? No? Okay,
Thank you.
Uh,
thank you.
I asked them, Kathy, shake your head now.
Okay.
Okay, very well. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns, ideas?
I just want to ask Andy, when this open gov is effective, it's gonna help with the issues we talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that everything was very disjointed. Acela had these, we rode the Acela wave. It did very well for us, and then it didn't meet the needs, and then as our needs changed. So the idea is we really wanted to kind of, you know, the costs were going up, so we needed to look at something that fit our needs if we're gonna pay the money. OpenGov seems to fit that need, and the idea is to bring all this disjointed information together into something that's capable of handling it better than the previous system did. So I want to stress that, you know, our goal is to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. So to Kathy's point is we're starting with these agencies for the the quick hits and the major impact, and then we'll start to engage as time permits. We'll start to engage these other organizations. The more information we start to throw at it, we should do better at getting to the overall picture of what's going on.
And we'd be glad to give you an update in about 60 days to exactly where you are. You just have to give us,
Yeah, I would
a
love to
little
hear
time, but
that.
I would be glad to put it together, a report with the departments and let you know where we are in 60 days. But you gotta give us 60 days to wrap our heads around it.
60 days. okay.
Yeah, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I think most people go on vacation now.
She just went on
I didn't
vacation.
want to. You guys keep calling meetings.
All right, so,
Actually, we have to have another
yeah,
meeting.
no. So I'm just gonna
Technology.
summarize kind of some of the action items that I think that I heard here today. And I got 3 action items or 2 action items on one obvious thing, and that is that Dollar Tree has approximately $1,400 for outstanding tickets. They have not paid, and if I understood Suhaili correctly, they've been ticketed 13 times in 2 years. And ranging from $100 to $300, and that's a problem that we need to look at because if we don't pay attention to the little corner over there, we're going to lose it. We're gonna have open golf up and running, Andy, by July 1st. Give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. After that, we are gonna be able to see exactly what is the real outstanding debt that we have out there. And we will be able to see that, correct, Andy?
Well, I would think that, let's get the system
I said, can you give
online.
us 60 days?
Let's get the system online.
60 days.
before we,
60 days from today, and then Solicitor, you're gonna be looking at the possibility of publishing to at least the city website. The bad actors who don't pay the debt, the ordinance tickets.
Yes.
Okay, very well. Any other question, comments? No?
And I was thinking of open book. I was thinking of open book.
Okay,
I was close.
all right, I'm just gonna finish with this statement. First of all, thank you everybody for showing up. And of course, my favorite subject. And the Pilot Revenue Committee, I'll be talking that will turn every rock looking for money. We need money for the city. And if we have outstanding money out there in tickets, by God gracious, let's go get it. Because then at the end of the day, it's gonna affect property taxes. And every penny that we can get is a penny that is welcome.
Yep.
With that being said, the time is now 1:50. And unless there's any questions, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. God bless everybody.
Thank you, everybody.